1,000 better
1,000
stories.
better
stories.
1,000
better
stories.
You're listening to 1000 Better Stories, the Scottish Communities Climate Action Network's podcast sharing stories of community-led climate action in Scotland to help us all imagine the better and fairer future and transform what we think is possible.
Hello, I'm Madeline, one of ECCAN's Assistant Communications Weavers. This week, we're sharing an episode from a brand new podcast, Climate Jam. It is a podcast series from Edinburgh Communities Climate Action Network that talks about climate projects and anything climate related in Edinburgh. I would encourage you to check out Climate Jam's other episodes over on ECCAN's website. The link is in the show notes. In episode 3 of Climate Jam, host Eirini talks to Pianodrome's co-founder Tim Vincent-Smith about the story behind building the world's first Pianodrome.
Hello everybody and welcome to ECCAN's pilot series Climate Jam, where we talk about climate projects, climate dreams and anything climate related in the context of Edinburgh. This is episode 3 called Building the World's First Pianodrome with a very special guest, Tim Vincent-Smith. Enjoy! So, Tim, thank you so much for coming today.
Eirini, thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
So let's take it from the top. What is Pianodrome? Some of our listeners haven't heard of that before. How would you describe it?
Pianodrome is a 100-seater amphitheatre, so a sort of circular theatre space of tiered seating with a central stage, and the entire structure is made out of pianos which were intercepted on the way to the dump. So pianos are instead in this beautiful, resonant, astonishing sculptural seating thing, which is the Pianodrome.
And what do you do at this structural sitting thing that is the Pianodrome?
Well, it's in the first place an interactive sculpture and a community centre, a sort of a community hub. There are 5 pianos in the original Pianodrome. There are 5 pianos embedded into the tiered seating, which anybody's welcome to come and play. And so the noise of the tinkling pianos will draw more people in, and basically it's trying to open a space for people's creativity and to address one stream of waste of what our society considers to be waste. If we rethink just pianos, then that's a starting point for rethinking our whole approach to materials. And, well, also, it's an amazing event space. And I'm a musician, and I started the Pianodrome with my bandmate Matt Wright, also known as Leon. And together we've played in the Pianodrome with our band Sync hundreds of times, and we've also invited hundreds of different musical acts and theatre acts and poetry and talks and all kinds of things. So it's a really nice event space as well.
I've been a few times. I go once every few weeks. Sometimes, schedule gets in the way. I know that you have your regular events, but also sometimes you have one-off events as well.
Yes.
But let's take a trip back in time. Let's go, say... Let's go at year 2017.
Yes.
Young Tim and young Matt, or Leon, I don't know what they're doing in their day, but the idea for Pianodrome comes up and it flourishes.
Well, it was a funny way that it came to me was that we were moving into a 3rd floor tenement flat, and my girlfriend at the time, Megan, some family friends of her parents were downsizing. But anyway, they didn't have anything that they could do with their grand piano. And would anybody like this grand piano free of charge? And Megan said, oh, yeah, that'd be great. And so we had this grand piano, a lovely Challen, beautiful instrument. It's still one of my favourite pianos to play, actually. And I was doing an art exhibition at the time, which was based on found materials. So when the piano movers, Edinburgh Piano Moves, Jerry Love from Edinburgh Piano Moves, came with his crew, that was the first time I met him, actually. And they just carried this grand piano up 3 flights of stairs with absolutely no bother whatsoever.
Oh, my God.
And they didn't even want a cup of tea. And I asked Jerry, do you ever sort of have any spare pianos? And he said, I got 3 in the van and you can have them free of charge. And I said, oh, great. Could you... my studio's here, I'm doing this exhibition, maybe they could be part of the exhibition. He said, yep, dropped them off the next day, and he carried on dropping pianos off, and I got in trouble because they were getting left in the corridor. I phoned him and said, sorry, this is a fire hazard, could you stop dropping pianos off? The idea really came to me when I had put about 10 or 15 pianos in a circle, upright pianos in a circle, in this kind of space where I had a studio at the time. And I just took my shoes off and ran round the keyboards, plong, 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 plong. And then I was just sitting on the top of the pianos and looking at the space and thinking, this could be a really good... So the first 3 pianos that Jerry gave me, I turned into a sort of a pyramid structure that people could play in the gallery space. But then he kept on dropping the pianos off. And then I had, I collected sort of 10, 15 of them and then put them in a circle. And that's when I started thinking really big about... Because I was at the time anyway making sculptural furniture out of found materials.
Ooh.
I would be, finding driftwood or finding wood in skips and using these materials to make furniture for commissions. And it was all kind of sculptural stuff. And also in parallel with that, I was playing with my band, with Sync, and we used to particularly enjoy playing in the round and acoustic music, and these different strands kind of collided in the idea of the Pianodrome to make this kind of in the round performance space, which was acoustic, and it was made from found materials, and the piano just appeared, and when I met Jerry Love, the piano mover, he actually said that he was paying somebody to burn pianos at the rate of 10 pianos per month.
Isn't that the job title you find on LinkedIn, like piano burner?
Well, not anymore, because it's not allowed. You can't even burn them now. You have to he has to pay to take them to the dump. Or
for you to intercept
I'll
them.
take them for free. Except I won't, not anymore. Because what I then realised was that however large a space you have, if you tell people you'll take all their pianos, and you even tell them, I can't pay for the transport, the space will be jammed full of pianos. And if you tap into that stream, then you've got lots of good material.
Yeah.
So the idea came as I described, and then Leon was working for the Science Festival at the time, and then he grabbed hold of the idea and he said, you need proper funding for this, and he came on as a co-producer of the Pianodrome Community Interest Company, which was set up, and he led on getting Creative Scotland funding, and we had our first installation, the Royal Botanic Gardens, in 2018.
What was that installation about? Was it a number of pianos built?
No, that was the first Pianodrome. We built the first Pianodrome.
For an installation?
Yeah, we had a crowdfunder. We raised £11,000 back in 2017, and then we secured the Creative Scotland funding, and also the Botanic Gardens put in some funding. And in the fringe of 2018, we built the world's first Pianodrome.
The original Pianodrome you built for the exhibition, was that in Granton, where you're now, or did you build it somewhere else and then you moved it there?
We built it in Granton and we moved it to the Botanic Gardens. And then that was under a geodesic dome on a bespoke floor made out of recycled gym flooring.
Was it easy to move it from Granton to the Botanic Gardens and then from the Botanic Gardens back to Granton?
No.
I was like, I feel like there's one answer here, but
no, it's quite heavy.
How did you do it?
Sort of like IKEA flat pack, you can pull it apart into piano-sized chunks and stick it in at the time we were using Luton vans with a tail lift. I think we had 2 vans going back and forth between Granton and the Botanic Gardens.
I'm just impressed because I've been to the Pianodrome, so I'm just trying to imagine this huge building almost being on the road.
It's meant to look like It's really difficult, and it is in fact really difficult, but it's not quite as difficult.
You kind
as
of
it
just
looks.
break down the seats and
It's a modular structure. It's kind of hard to describe. You have to see it.
I mean, that's an invitation for the listeners, isn't it?
Which it is, yes.
Go
Come
and
along
see it.
and see it, yes.
But so you mentioned that someone asked you, "Oh, can you build a Pianodrome elsewhere?" But I know there was a plan to do it somewhere else.
Oh, we did. We built one in America. The Fringe of 2019, we were in the Pitt Street warehouse there. And that's when some folk from Charlotte, North Carolina, came to see our show, and they said, "We love the Pianodrome. We want to be the first people in America to build a Pianodrome." And it took 5 or 6 years, actually, to make that happen. But a couple of years ago, January of 2023, we built a Pianodrome in America.
And what were the obstacles you encountered in trying to build a new Pianodrome in America?
Surprisingly, enormous amount of obstacles. I mean, there's, first of all, the obstacle of trying to communicate the idea. We made a whole series of films about how to build a Pianodrome, about every aspect of the construction. Because we wanted, originally, what we were hoping to do was be able to instruct the crew in America to be able to build a Pianodrome in America without flying across the Atlantic for obvious reasons. But then there were a couple of false starts. One, hilariously, they had collected a whole load of pianos which were spinettes, which are kind of much smaller versions of pianos, but nowhere had anybody sort of realised that these pianos were completely different from the kind of pianos
that you were used to
everybody
working
just
with.
assumed that pianos are the same everywhere, which just wasn't the case.
Plot twist.
There were many sort of false starts, and finally it became apparent that, like, unless we would actually go out there ourselves, then it wasn't going to work. And so, with enormous reluctance, I took a flight out and met with Sean and Greg with their team out there, who were brilliant. And we started pulling pianos apart in their warehouse, and I started sharing designs and demonstrating the various techniques. And then our team all went out to America, and there was enormous kind of visa issues, and that was a huge barrier. And I mean, the folk out there spent an enormous amount of time and money on lawyers and resources to try and get that through. It was a real stumbling block.
And you had COVID in between as well, because you said it took quite a
COVID.
few years.
There was that too, yeah. A difficulty with that project is that once the Pianodrome was built, and it's a beautiful Pianodrome, some say the best. I haven't actually ever seen it completed because I was only there at the very beginning. But the rest of the team went out then and had really good tools and really good support. And it was, in fact, the third Pianodrome that was built, because we built another one for the Old Royal High here in 2022. So that's actually the third Pianodrome. And so it was really beautiful. But because it was being run by a sort of arm of the council, effectively, in Charlotte, and because it wasn't being run by a grassroots arts organisation, they just didn't have the time and resources and the vibe to sort of make it thrive. So even once all of the kind of logistical hurdles had been overcome to build the structure, there were a load of unseen hurdles, which is really very, very hard to quantify.
Were they also like things like licenses?
Not even that. It's just the vibe, you know?
The energy of people not replying to
energy,
emails
exactly.
or something not getting
We're
done.
not even replying to emails. It's the energy of people, like, caring for the place and inviting people into it and, like, just making it come alive.
Yeah, because it's not just about having a structure and building. It's about preserving it and maintaining it and making sure it's vibrant.
And this is the circular economy that you talk about. That kind of is a positive feedback loop. You know, I have great respect for the folk in Charlotte that commissioned that. They were absolutely single-mindedly and incredibly supportive of us to make that happen against really difficult odds. But it was still within a linear paradigm of, we want to make this thing, we're going to put a load of money into it, and then we'll have this thing. But that's just missing this kind of it's missing the circular economy aspect. It's missing the fact that in the Edinburgh Pianodrome, the people who built the Pianodrome are also the people who are playing in it, and the people who care about it. That's the thing which brings the community together. And that's why I described the Pianodrome in the first instance as a kind of community hub. Because without that, you can have as many pianodromes as you like, but it isn't really a pianodrome.
No, it's about giving it a soul. Like, it's not just about building the building, but having the people to keep
Giving
it
it
going,
a soul.
giving it a
Exactly.
soul.
Like yourself, coming once every couple of weeks when you're available to see a show, and then being like, oh, well, you know, this is really interesting. I'd like to do a podcast about it. I mean, that's the point.
I thought when I invited you to the podcast that this is a great idea that maybe others will get inspired. If someone was to come to you and they're like, maybe they were in the UK, right? Say, relatively local. What would be your advice to them? If they're like, hey, Tim, we're thinking of doing this. What's your advice to us?
Just get a space and start filling it with pianos. Yeah. I mean, if you can find access to a building, preferably which the roof doesn't leak and it isn't too far to get to and it has enough space, certainly anywhere in the UK, I would guess that if you contact all the local piano moving companies and just say, hey, you can drop pianos off here for free, you'll have, within a short space of time, you'll have 40 or 50 pianos, which would be enough to build a pianodrome. And then you need an enormous amount of time and effort. But if you work with community, if you work with volunteer networks, it's a really fun and not particularly complicated thing to do. It doesn't require an enormous amount of skills or enormous amount of tools. It just requires people to be into it and up for it. Yeah, start pulling the pianos apart and get in touch. I mean, we'll share 2 hours of videos with you about how to make a pianodrome.
Would you give them any advice of how to pull the community in? Because obviously we've covered extensively. It's not just about the building and bringing pianos apart and back together. It's about people maintaining the environment. Would you give them any advice of how to keep the community going?
What I think is that the really important thing is to care, and it's putting the time and energy into it and keeping doing that. But I think for me, the fundamental thing is that you care about it, you know? And if you put that care into your work and you're open, the openness, I guess, is the other side of that, is just being open to people who would come and would volunteer. Because actually for the first 3 years of the project, Leon and I included, we were working free of charge. We were doing it entirely voluntary, working with volunteers to pull the pianos apart and do the construction.
Because you cared.
Because we had this idea and we thought it has to happen, you know? And yeah, I suppose that's the thing, really. Yeah.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And is there any advice you would give to your younger self? Like, if you could go back to 2017, any advice you would give to younger Tim about getting started on this journey? Is there anything you would have done differently?
I can't imagine it happened differently. I just can't imagine, because so many things have happened, so many people have become involved. It's such an enormously complex arrangement of things that, and I suppose the attitude of care and openness is what has allowed that to grow. I don't know. I guess I don't know if it would have helped though at all if I could have gone back to myself 7 or 8 years ago and said, look out, this is going to be actually really, really hard. And this is going to be like the hardest thing you've ever done, actually.
And the thing is, some people say, oh, it's nice to try and fail. But like, no, you tried and succeeded. So this is a success story. And final question, I guess. What does the future hold for the Pianodrome?
Oh, well, it's very exciting. There's a few things. Well, one thing that springs to mind is that there's a book called Nature's Genius, which David Farrier wrote, and he came to interview me at the Pianodrome. He wrote this book about the genius of nature, and he very kindly recognized that this is what the Pianodrome is trying to do, and he drew this parallel between nature's genius and the genius of the Pianodrome in air quotes. So what does the future hold? I guess in one sense, the Pianodrome is an idea, and this book is one way in which this idea is being brought to a wider audience. And so that's one aspect of it. And another aspect, in a more sort of grounded way, is that what we'd really like to do is find a permanent home.
Are you not permanent in Grantham?
Well, I mean, we're sort of just doing one event per week, which is a sort of by donation, and we have a compost toilet there, which is very circular economy, but not everybody's able to access it and so forth. And so, I mean, that was just our workshop, and it became our default home, and it's been a real flourishing actually for the Adopt a Piano scheme, which is run by Tom and Shona, and they do an amazing job of convening community around tuning and fixing and selling pianos and stopping them going to landfill. So that's all happening at the warehouse workshop in Granton. But there's a possibility that we may move some operations to the original Pianodrome into St Oswald's Church in Bruntsfield. We're hoping to move into this beautiful church with carved stone and a vaulted wooden ceiling and an amazing acoustic and stained glass windows. But there we would have our Pianodrome amphitheatre, we would have a piano cafe where all of the furniture is made out of pianos and you can get delicious coffee. And then we would have a little kind of kids section where you can pull apart a piano action and turn it into little puppets or little make your own constructions.
Is it going to be just for kids? Because I would want to do that.
And adults.
Okay, good.
Yes. It's for anybody who wants to be playful, which I guess is another fundamental part of building community, and a fundamental part of the whole Pianodrome project is to be creative, to be playful, and to recognise the importance of that in facing the challenges that the world faces.
I think that's a beautiful vision, because that's what a lot of people need. They need creativity, they need something to do and somewhere to go to achieve that. Maybe you've told me already, but what do you do once you take the pianos apart? Like, what do you do with the materials that are left from there?
Well, so we have in the workshop, we have a sort of library of parts, and every Wednesday people are invited to come and pull a piano apart, and you can take away any bits that you want in order to make stuff, frames, tables, chairs, what you name it, shelving. And I'm hoping to start also a weekly workshop where people are invited to come and build things as well.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Well, these are all the questions I had for you today, Tim. Do you have any last words?
I guess to answer the first question again, what is a Pianodrome? I mean, it is in one sense an amphitheatre made out of upcycled pianos, but in another sense it's a sort of approach to community building and to current sort of environmental issues, an approach to materials and creativity. It's really just trying to open a space for creative community.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. It's not just the building, it's the mindset around it. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming here today, Tim, and we'll see you again very
Thanks
soon.
for having me.
This episode was recorded in May 2025, and since then, Pianodrome has opened a second location at St Oswald's in Bransfield that should be available to public sometime in October. If you have any questions, or if you're interested in finding out more about the Pianodrome, check their website, pianodrome.org. Thank you!
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like and share it with others. It'll really help us reach a wider audience. If something exciting is happening in your own community, be sure to let us know so that we can help you tell your own story. You can drop our story weavers a line at stories@sccan.scot. It's scan, SCCAN, .scot, SCOT. We also offer training and mini-grant support to community storytellers. To keep up to date with our offerings and everything SCAN, check out our website at scan.scot or find us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram, or simply sign up to the newsletter.